Hello and welcome to another episode of Raw Chatter. I am your host speaking, Vicky Midwood, integrative health coach and lifestyle addiction eliminator, and basically much more than a coach. I went to an FSB meeting this morning, some lovely new members there, and got chatting, and it was very apparent to the lady I was talking to that I was not just a health coach when we were going into details of stuff. So I am here to help you to feel, think, and function in a way that helps you to live your life the way that you would like to live it, not the way that you think you should. And that is really what my mission is to help us to really work with our body and brain. And the reason that I do that is because I watched two people I love be medicated and not get the help that they needed in the right way to focus on the right stuff to help them to work with body and brain, which resulted in, if you've heard previous podcasts, my dad deciding to take his life by suicide in 2015. And my mum didn't die of the issue or the illness that she had. She died of the side effects of years and years and years of medication, which is a story that many people and many families can relate to. And so my mission is to help you to take responsibility for your own health through awareness, through education, through understanding how you function as a human. Because let's face it, most of us know how our computers work and how our phones work and how our cars work better than we know how we work, especially when we are in a world that seems to love separating at the head, mental health from physical health. And the sooner we can reconnect and stop separating, the better we'll all feel and function. And that is my aim, to help you to understand how you feel and function in a way that works for you, your lifestyle, and for what you actually want for yourself. And what I'd like to do on this podcast is share things that come up in my real life coaching. And so this week, I had a client's kind of realization that almost stopped him in his tracks when he said, I think I've spent my whole life trying to make my partner happy. He didn't say support her. He didn't say love her. He didn't say walk beside her, but make her happy. And once he said that out loud, you could kind of see that he didn't know what else to do, but he knew that actually it wasn't working. She wasn't happy and neither was he. And then the same week, last week, in another conversation, another client living by a similar rule came out with a sentence that really kind of hit home. Well, if my parents are happy and if my kids are happy, then we can all be happy. And on the surface, it sounds really caring, doesn't it? It sounds responsible. It even sounds loving, but underneath, this idea that if everybody else is happy, then I can be happy. It's a really damaging belief, and it's not actually ours. It's one that we've been handed. This idea that other people's happiness is my responsibility. No, it really isn't. Your responsibility is your own happiness. And newsflash, we're not designed to be happy all of the time. We're not meant to be. Okay, so what I want to talk about today is kind of where has this belief come from? Because it is conditioned, there's no doubt about it. And it usually, as with all of these things, it starts when you were little. Please excuse me, I've got a really dry, croaky throat, so I am going to be having a little sip of a warm drink. You were praised for being good or easygoing or helpful, or maybe you sensed that there was tension when you were little and so you adapted to keep the peace. Perhaps you were rewarded for being compliant, for being a good girl or a good boy. And I've talked about this before, but what this really teaches us is that our needs were either inconvenient to other people or selfish, and that's a massive one that comes up, particularly with people with eating disorders, body image issues, who very much have issues around people pleasing and perfectionism. And also that maybe my wants and my needs are a bit excessive. Other people aren't as demanding as you. And so what you tend to do when you're little and you don't know you're doing it is you learn to kind of read the room, you read the energy, you read what's going on. You avoid conflict. You try and fix discomfort. And in other words, you are taking responsibility for emotions that are not yours. And over time, it feels like your identity. It is who you are. It's an identity that feels safer being liked, being compliant, being the good girl, even if you're not necessarily happy. If you can make other people happy, it means that you're not being rejected. Now, this is massive with anybody who has got ADHD, because rejection sensitivity dysphoria, or RSD, is absolutely huge. It's probably the most difficult part of ADHD. If there is one outstanding difficult part, I think that's it. It's this fear of rejection. It's this fear of not fitting in. It's this fear of not being liked, of not being good enough, or of being seen as too much. And here's the thing, trying to manage other people's happiness is going to just quietly, slowly, over time, kind of dismantle your sense of self, your self-esteem, and often it really damages your health. It disconnects you from you. Because when everybody else's emotional state comes first, you stop checking in with your body. You ignore the signs of fatigue or of resentment, maybe. You push them down, you push them away, and maybe even of hunger. You know, if you've learned to always put everybody else's wants and needs before your own, you just get more and more disconnected from what you actually need and what your body is trying to tell you. And that means that over time, if somebody asks you, what do you want? And this, again, I find this so often with my clients. If I say to my clients, what do you want? They genuinely don't know. They cannot answer it because they have spent decades, most of them, feeling that they have to put everybody else's needs first. So they genuinely don't know what they want anymore and what they like anymore. And I can guarantee you that it affected me for years without me realizing. It wasn't until in my late 30s that I realized the detrimental effect it had on me, because I would do or say whatever I thought you wanted me to. And I thought I could mind read. I thought I knew what you were thinking, and I thought you knew what I thought I knew what you wanted. And I would bend over backwards to try and do that. And often it wasn't actually the right thing, or it might have been, but the thing is, it doesn't last. And what it does is then often it leaves you feeling disappointed, and it leaves you feeling like a failure, because it isn't your job to make other people happy. And so when you do certain things with this idea in your head, if I do this, if I say this, they'll be happy, and then they're not, you feel like either you've done it wrong, you're somehow a bad person, you're stupid, and again, that often comes up with ADHD, or that you're just a failure. And this means that your nervous system is constantly on alert. And no amount of medication is going to fix that, while the belief that everybody else's wants and needs are more important than yours is still intact. And often this is a big, big driver behind emotional eating and drinking and overworking, because we turn to these things to cope. They are solutions. They are not the problem. Although we look at food as being the problem, actually it's not. We turn to it as a solution, because it's hard flipping work trying to manage everybody else's emotions and ignore your own. And so you eat to soothe, you drink to switch off, you overwork to feel worthy. And perhaps you can resonate with some of these things. And this isn't a lack of willpower that you're doing this stuff. And so if you're turning to monitoring your drinking, or you're logging what you're eating, and we're going OTT over here on the thing that actually isn't the main problem, you're going to struggle, and you're going to probably blame willpower. And what you're actually doing is creating more stress, overloading your system even more, and then you're going to be seeking out even more relief. And that's often why you then turn to multiple addictions that you're using. Maybe it was food and then it's now food and drink, and then maybe it's gambling, or maybe it's some kind of drugs or whatever. My point is, we're looking at fixing the wrong thing. And often when people come to me with eating disorder or disordered eating, we rarely focus on that, because that is not the issue. It is the solution that they found to what is actually causing them to feel the way that they feel. And that is often like a failure, discontent, not good enough, stupid in some way, because they are always trying to manage other people's emotions and they are not tuning in to theirs. And they start asking questions like, why am I like this? And why can't I just be like a good person? What's wrong with me? The brutal truth is this: it breeds shame, does all of this stuff. When you abandon yourself and you also start to feel resentful, you then feel ashamed for feeling resentful, because you keep on giving, you keep on accommodating, and you say yes when you mean no. And then you feel angry, and immediately you shame yourself for feeling angry. And so the resentment turns in on you and you have a go at yourself. Internally, you are beating yourself up with a big stick. But the thing is, there isn't anything wrong with you. It's just that you have been disappearing for years. And this way of being and thinking, it guarantees that you'll never feel enough, because the goal's impossible, because you cannot make another adult happy and you can't control how someone feels. Now, that's not to say that if you do something that is genuinely hurtful, or you come out with an on purpose hurtful comment, that you're not in some way responsible for them feeling hurt. Yes, but ultimately they have a choice. They have a choice. They can bat that away as being ridiculous, or they can choose to feel hurt. But that is their choice. It's not yours. And this is where, when I first was told that people pleasing was quite arrogant, I couldn't get my head around it. But my therapist basically said, who the hell are you to be in charge of everybody else's emotions? Who gave you that power? And of course, I didn't have an answer, because the only person's emotions that I'm in control of and in charge of are my own. But if I've got a narrative going on that my feelings and thoughts are bad, or there's something wrong with them, or they're dark, or they're terrible, or if people knew I was thinking, all of that sort of stuff goes on, then chances are you're not going to talk about what you really think and what you really feel, for fear of being judged. And so we get into this crazy loop, which means that you then try even harder to heal somebody's unmet needs, or to fix their emotional wounds that are not yours to fix. And you keep trying harder, and then you fail, and you try harder, and the whole time you get more and more lost. And this is what I want to share with you. You are only ever responsible for your behaviour, not other people's emotions. Caring about someone is not the same as carrying them. And you can care about somebody with a deep passion, but you don't carry them. And love does not require you to erase yourself, to be so small that you don't even count anymore. That is not what love is about at all. So I want to share with you what can you do? What can you do if this is you, and you're recognizing it's somebody in your household? Maybe it's a family member who you can see that this is going on, and you don't quite know what you can do, if anything, to help them. Well, here's the thing. First of all, help them to understand that it's not their job to manage other people's emotions. That is not the job role that they have got as a child or as a grown-up. They are only ever responsible for their own emotions. That doesn't mean that you go out of your way to be unkind or nasty or hurtful, but it just means that you do not sacrifice yourself for other people feeling good temporarily, right? Because long-term is, you will damage your health, emotional, physical, mental, and spiritual, because you are almost getting a rubber and erasing who you actually are. And when I think about this thing, I think about, there's a film, and I can't remember which film it is, where the person, it's like a sepia picture comes in and the person sort of disappears and then reappears. And that's kind of how it feels when you're trying to manage emotions, because when you get it right, you kind of appear again. And then when you get it wrong and you realize actually what you're doing isn't having the effect that you hoped or wanted to manipulate in some way or engineer, and so you disappear again. And then you cannot spend your life doing that. So how do we let go of this belief without becoming a cold-hearted, selfish so-and-so? Because nobody wants that either. And you don't have to be extremes. And one thing we humans are really good at is either or, right? Extremes. But if you think of a line, one end and the other end, there's a whole lot of stuff in between them two end points. And yet we humans seem to insist on being right at this end or right at that end. The fun happens, the good stuff happens in the middle. So what can you do? Well, it's about getting back in touch with, it's about reconnecting with yourself. And it's about asking, am I saying to myself, I should, I must, I ought to? Because these little moments of noticing that reflex, that automatic language in your head, oh, they'll be upset if I don't, or will they be upset? I better. I should do this to help them too. I should do this to make them. Oh, it's just easier if I say yes. Now, if you can be aware of that, catch it, literally. And I'm doing that. I can think of it like, the anteater, not the anteaters, what's the fly catcher? There's literally just catch that fly, catch that ant. Is it Dr. Amen talks about the ants, the automatic negative thoughts, stomp them out with your feet. I like to catch mine. I like to catch them. And once you're aware that this is language that you keep on thinking in your head, then you can decide to change it. And before you respond to yourself in your own head, ask yourself this simple question: what do I actually want or need? Nobody else is in your head. And this is important for you to know, because some of my clients honestly think that people can hear what they're thinking and they know what they're thinking. No, nobody does. Only you do. If you choose to share it, then obviously people get an idea. But the majority of us don't share a lot of our thoughts because they're ours, they're private, and we don't want other people to know what we're thinking. But ask yourself, what do I actually want or need? And you don't actually have to do anything with it. You don't have to take action on it. But just the very fact that you're acknowledging you and asking yourself that question, that's how you start to reconnect to yourself. Now, you have to allow for discomfort, because if you are a yes person and suddenly you start saying no, people may be disappointed. They might be a bit confused or even annoyed. And that doesn't mean that you've done something wrong. And it doesn't mean that you run back to doing what you've always done, because discomfort isn't danger. Okay, it's not the pleasantest of feelings, but discomfort is actually growth. And it means that you are pushing through to get to the other side. And that short feeling, and most feelings don't last any longer than 90 seconds, and a lot of them don't even last that long. But remind yourself that discomfort is not danger, discomfort is growth. It means you are changing. And so allow for it, okay? It's not going to kill you. And again, back to when I was in rehab, and one of my therapists just said, if in doubt, ask yourself, will I die? Will I die of this feeling? And it's not going to kill you. It is just a feeling, and it will pass if you let it. And then you have got to separate love from responsibility, because often this stuff is more powerful with close family members and friends and partners, if you have got a partner in your life or you are married. So know that you can support with honesty. You can say what you think and you feel, that you can communicate, in other words, very clearly, very specifically. And you can still not agree with somebody and not say something that's going to help them to feel a certain way. In other words, you allow them You allow them to have their own emotions and have their own feelings and to be able to deal with them themselves. It's not up to you to deal with their emotions. It's up to them to learn how to deal with them. And you can therefore stop abandoning yourself, because that's called being an adult. And the majority of people I work with are very much stuck in their inner child. The inner child is running the show, and they just don't know that, right? Because you can't know what you don't know. But one of the really powerful things that you can do if you're recognizing yourself or somebody you know in this is help yourself or them to redefine what actually good means. Now, I'm not a fan of the words good and bad in relation to anything, but we do use them. Society uses them, so we're not going to shy away from them and not going to suddenly ban them. But I don't think of foods as being good or bad. I think of them as being nutritionally good or nutritionally just shite, basically. And so, yes, I do use the terms good or bad, but they're not labels. However, being good isn't being depleted. Being good isn't staying silent. Being good isn't just agreeing for the sake of keeping the peace. And being good is not being invisible, right? What it is being honest, grounded, and self-respecting. That is what it means to be good. A good human, a good responsible adult, someone who is honest, grounded, and respects themselves. Not somebody who is silent, agreeable, depleted, or invisible. And at first, it's going to feel really unsettling for you to transition, because you are literally going to be changing your identity. But when you can recognize what I've already said, that discomfort isn't danger, discomfort is growth, you can start to feel settled, you can start to feel solid. And when you start to live true to yourself with honesty, with self-respect, you will sleep better. You'll definitely feel less anxious. Your coping behaviours, so your need, your desire, your compulsion to turn to food or alcohol or shopping or gambling or drugs or any of those things, is going to become significantly less. And for many people, it just disappears. They almost look at it like a miracle. It's like, oh my God, I just don't even want to, I'm not even thinking about it. I don't even know when it left me, but it did. And it's because they allowed themselves to have that self-respect. They gave themselves permission to be honest, to say no, to ask themselves, what do I really want? Not from a place of being selfish, but from a place of self-care, so that they can feel, think, and function in the best way possible for them, for their families, for their business, for their friendships, for their quality of life, because that is what it's about. And for the first time, when you do this stuff and you do it consistently, your relationships do get better, right? Some will absolutely deepen, but to be honest, this is where you'll find out who really is a friend, who really are the people who you should be around and spending time with, who are the people that nourish you. Because the ones that don't, they'll fall away just naturally. And you won't have to push them, right? They'll just go, because you are no longer being the compliant one, the one who they can manipulate, the one who they can rely on to always do the stuff that nobody else wants to. Suddenly that's not you, and they don't like that, and they'll disappear, which is fine. And for the first time, you'll start to feel like your life is yours. It's not managed. It's not a negotiation. It's not being earned through exhaustion. You're just living. And for many people, they've never experienced just living as themselves, being true to who they actually are. Because when you're trying to manage other people's emotions, when you believe that somebody else's happiness is your responsibility, you end up either being burnt out, addicted, having some kind of eating disorder, or some kind of midlife collapse, because there's only so long that you can keep this stuff up. And often this stuff gets blamed on menopause, or for men, andropause. And yes, of course, there is an element to when your brain hormones are changing. And remember, the hormones we refer to as sex hormones are actually brain hormones. They affect how we think, feel, and function massively. And so this is often when this stuff actually comes out. And this is why a lot of people feel like midlife is the time for them to be able to finally say, do you know what, enough is enough. And you'll read articles that people have written in their sort of mid-50s and they go, do you know what, I don't care what people think of me anymore. I'm done. I'm done caring. I'm done spending all of that time and getting exhausted worrying about what other people might be saying about me or thinking of how I look or whatever, because this is now about me. And for a lot of people, that just happens naturally. But for many people, it doesn't. And so this is what I do. I help you to understand what is going on for you and to help you to let go of managing other people's emotions, to really start to reconnect back to yourself. It's not a surface level fix and you don't literally do it overnight, but real identity change is possible. And that can improve your health significantly, to the extent that many people don't need antidepressants anymore. They don't need their high blood pressure tablets anymore. Why? Because they are changing everything about who they are being, how they feel, think, and function. And that is available to you. So if you are struggling, I'm going to invite you to jump on a free evaluation call with me. This is not a sales call. This is a conversation. This is a conversation about you opening up about what's really going on, about being honest in terms of the fact that, you know what, I am trying to manage people's emotions and it's making me miserable and resentful. And I feel shame that I'm feeling those feelings, because I get it. I was there. And it's a journey and it's a process to get out of it. But what I can tell you is it is one so worth going on, and it doesn't take as long as you think. So if you are in any way, shape or form in doubt about whether you can change and life can be better, I invite you to jump on that call. I am not going to sell you anything. It is free. It is a conversation. But I think it's important to know that you are by no means the only person feeling and thinking like you do. And you can change it. You will be able to change it if you implement certain steps in a certain order to ensure that it's manageable, it doesn't overwhelm you, and you can handle the new version of yourself. And that's exciting, especially as we're in a new year now. And I'm not talking about new year, new you, unless that is what you want. But if you are absolutely sick and tired of how you have been and how you've been feeling about yourself, and you know that this is your time, then grab that opportunity, jump on a call with me, and let's just see if I'm not the person to help you, just what you can do to help yourself. Because there is a lot you can do, but a lot of people start with the wrong stuff, make it harder than it needs to be. And I'm going to leave you with this, as I always do, folks. If you have enjoyed what you have heard, please give me a thumbs up, give me a like, give me a subscribe so you don't miss another episode. If this has been helpful to you, or you know someone who is going to find it helpful, please do pass it on to them, because the more people we can get listening, the more people I can help and you can help to take responsibility for their own health, to reconnect back to themselves, mind and body as a whole, not separate, the better we'll be. Because as far as I know, we only have one life and one body. So please look after it, because it is looking after you. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.